I like to start our show. We call it a conversation with Bangladesh, Bangladesh's Sange Adda. And I like to, introduce my friend here, Izaz. He's a young leader. I call him leader of the leaders. Shall we start?
Sure.
Here.
Madam Secretary, welcome to Bangladesh. We are so pleased to have you with us in Dhaka. First time you visited us 17 years ago, 1995, as the First Lady of the United States. Second time here as the Secretary of State. How do you feel to be in Bangladesh?
Well, first I want to thank you, Ija, and you, Muni, and all of you for being here at the International School for this conversation, because I am very interested in Bangladesh and everything that you're doing, and I'm particularly interested in the young people of this country. So I've met some of the young leaders who are here, and I see others out in the audience, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. I want this to be a real conversation, and I thank you both for moderating it. I was here 17 years ago and had just the most wonderful experience with my daughter, meeting so many Bangladeshis at that time, not only here in Dhaka, but going out into the country, going to villages, visiting Grameen Bank borrowers, people working in BRAC projects, really getting a sense of the potential of the country. And coming back 17 years later, it just confirms my confidence that there is a tremendously positive path for this country. And it's not easy, you know that better than I do, but the changes, the economic growth, the continuation of democratic sustainment, all of that is very encouraging. So I'd love to hear more about what you think is needed for this country to realize its potential. As I said last night in my press conference, I'm betting on Bangladesh. I'm betting that you'll be able to work through all the problems that developing countries have everywhere. And the United States wants to be your partner, because what we care about is a successful, prosperous, peaceful, democratic country.
Well, Madam Secretary, you know the word Adda. May I explain you? In Bengali, we call Adda. It's a Bengali expression like rendezvous or chit-chat. So before we go to the audience, I would like to ask you one question. We heard that you had a meeting with Sir Abed and Dr. Yunus, of course. And how was that?
Well, first of all, I was honored to meet with both Sir Abed and Yunus. I've known them for many years. I've actually known Yunus longer, for more than 25 years. I think they are two national treasures of your country. Yes. They are two men who they have created organizations with the Grameen Bank and BRAC that are viewed internationally as the two best development organizations in the world. And I will say that I am committed to every way that I can and my government can to supporting their efforts, because we think they are so valuable. And I have followed the dispute over Grameen Bank from Washington, and I can only hope that nothing is done that in any way undermines the success of what Grameen Bank has accomplished on behalf of many millions of poor women and their families. And I know some of you, I met a young woman who is the daughter of a Grameen borrower who's now at university. That is how change happens. You help somebody get a better income that they then invest in their children and their family, then the next generation goes further. That's the story of America. I want it to be the story of Bangladesh. And the Grameen Bank has played an instrumental role. So I highly respect Mohammed Yunus, and I highly respect the work that he has done, and I am hoping to see it continue without being in any way undermined or affected by any government action. That would be unfortunate, because I come from this perspective. If you look at societies that are successful, there are three legs to a stool, if you think about it. You have to have a responsible, accountable government that delivers services to its people. You need a private business sector that produces jobs and economic growth that is broadly spread, which is beginning to happen here in this country. And you need civil society, because neither government nor business can or should do everything for people. What you are doing as a youth leader, and all of you who are involved, is building that third leg of the stool here in Bangladesh. That's where so much of what makes life important and meaningful happens. So I had an excellent meeting with both of those gentlemen this morning, and just have the highest regard. And every Bangladeshi should be so proud of what they've accomplished for your country.
Madam Secretary, we know what happened with Dr. Yunus. All of us, we know, and we feel very sorry for that. But I'd like to know, what does U.S. administration stand on the matter of Grameen Bank?
We do not want to see any action taken that would in any way undermine or interfere with the operations of Grameen Bank or its unique organizational structure where the poor women themselves are the owners. That has never happened anywhere in the world. It is now being duplicated. Other countries are looking to see what worked here in Bangladesh. So other countries are saying, what can we do to try to create something like that? So I don't want anything that would in any way undermine what has been this tremendous model that has stood the test of time over the last decades as a very important tool for lifting people out of poverty.
Well, you have just visited China and you will visit India. In between, now you are here in Bangladesh. So how do you consider us, like Bangladesh, as an emerging soft power?
I think you have extraordinary soft power.
Thank you.
And let me just explain why. First of all, you are strategically located between east and west of Asia. You have the opportunity to be a crossroads, as you historically have been. The Grand Trunk Road, the old Silk Road, all came to Bangladesh. And now you have an opportunity to serve the same role in the 21st century. I think the success that you've seen in lifting people out of poverty over the last years, dropping the poverty rate, I was told, from 40% to about 31%. It has to keep being driven down, but that's a very good sign. The fact that you've maintained democracy through a really difficult set of challenges is important. The fact that civil society is developing, as evidenced by all of you. The education system is being more responsive. You're getting, I think, close to 100% primary school enrollment. I think that those are all very strong signals to yourselves as well as the rest of the world. You're the largest contributor to United Nations peacekeeping operations. You have seen an increase in agricultural productivity. You're now self-sufficient in rice. The United States is working with you on that. You've dropped child and maternal mortality so that it appears that you will meet the Millennium Development Goal for maternal and child mortality. I mean, you go through the list of what you have accomplished in the last 17 years, since I was last here. And it's been a remarkable commitment of the Bangladeshi people. And I think the people deserve most of the credit. In a democracy, the people have to be given the credit because the government, remember, as Abraham Lincoln said, is of, by, and for the people. And so the people have demonstrated great resilience and determination. But you've got some challenges, and you know you have some challenges. I mean, you still have too many unemployed and underemployed young people who are not seeing a good future for themselves. You are starting to see some worrisome labor problems in the garment industry, which have to be solved because you don't want to get a reputation as a place where labor leaders and activists are murdered or where people are taken advantage of or abused in poor working conditions, because in today's world that will cause big manufacturers of clothing to be afraid to stay or come to Bangladesh. So the government and the garment factory businesses and the labor organizations have to work together so that you stay a very important destination to bring and create more jobs and have more exports. We talked with your government about how we can facilitate all of that. There needs to be total rule of law, no impunity. The recent killing of the labor activist, Mr. Islam, has to be investigated, and the perpetrators, if they can be found, need to be brought to justice, because you have to constantly be demonstrating no one is above the law, no matter how powerful or positioned in society. So you have continuing challenges, but I think the glass is more than half full. It's just a question of how you tackle some of these issues that are really found in every developing country. They're not in any way unique to your country, but the world is beginning to expect more from you because you have shown you can produce, you can get things done, you can make progress, and I think that's a good problem to have. And of course, we really believe that it is rooted in this new energy that we're seeing coming out of your country to really make a difference and to show the world that your soft power is to be reckoned with.
Wow.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, this is something, yeah.
Talking about energy, I also want to give you a sense of who is in this audience.
This question actually came from Tushar Buddho from the Facebook page of US Embassy. And the question is, what is the main obstacle for building peace in this region?
Well, I think that there have been long-standing historical conflicts in this region. I mean, your country was born out of a conflict, as you know. There has been problems with and among your neighbors, both your immediate near neighbors and your further neighbors. And we know that some of those feelings and grievances still are present. But what I've been encouraged by is the outreach I see going on in this region between countries, because if you look at the region as a whole, if you take from Bangladesh through India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, up into Central Asia, this region has been held back in development because of the closed borders, because of the historical enmities that have dominated the minds of people in the various nations. And the result is that you don't trade with each other, you don't exchange with each other to the extent that most other regions of the world do, even with former enemies. You think about Europe, where two terrible world wars were fought in the last century, and now they're part of a European Union. And they are rich, and they may have economic problems, but given the high level of their standard of living, they will be dealing with those over time. But what's fundamentally important is that they put aside centuries of warfare and terrible violence between them in order to learn how to cooperate. You look at ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, that is working toward developing greater trade ties, or you can see it happening in Africa, you see it happening in Latin America. And it's very important that this region of South Asia be part of that. So yes, it is a problem. There are lots of difficulties and mistrust that exists. There are all kinds of political and ideological differences, but it's important to keep making progress, to find specific ways to work together. We're beginning to see increasing business between Pakistan and India, for example. They're starting to open up as to trade and business visas. Now, that doesn't mean they've solved their problems. That doesn't mean that they have decided they're going to trust each other, but it means that they're being practical and realistic. And I think the same goes for Bangladesh and India, or with, Burma, Myanmar, as they develop, goes with, Nepal and Bhutan, and even, the entire regional outlook will be enhanced by being very practical about how to do more in cooperation in trade, business, investment, exchanges, and maybe, in 25, 50 years, the region will be flourishing in a way that we couldn't imagine today.
Well, Madam Secretary, I have a question. Whenever we talk about our internal politics, we seek U.S. advice. Why is that?
Well, I think that for people who believe in democracy, the United States is now the longest lasting democracy in the world, and we're very proud of that. But there's also a recognition that we didn't get there overnight. We didn't just wake up in 1789 and say everything is solved. We had a lot of problems. I mean, we had slavery still. We didn't empower women until the 20th century. We had to fight a civil war to end slavery, and we had to keep working on our civil rights movement to recognize the human dignity of every person. We had to work on religious tolerance. The United States is a very religious country, but it's also a very pluralistic country. You can go and see, churches, mosques, synagogues, Hindu temples, you name it, where people are free to worship as they choose. And that all took time, and it took a lot of work by succeeding generations of Americans. And it wasn't just our government and political leaders. It was what we call habits of the mind of our American citizens that Alexis de Tocqueville talked about when he came to the United States in the 1820s. And he said, this is a new kind of people where they think for themselves and where they work with each other and where they're overcoming these divisions that had kept them apart if they had lived back in the place where they came from. And many of you have studied in the United States. How many of you have studied in the United States? We've got a couple of hands here. We want more of you to study in the United States. We want you to come on student exchanges. And we are doing a big push through our embassy to create more study opportunities for young people from Bangladesh. So I think people look to us, and we do not claim to be a perfect nation. We are very conscious of our own shortcomings, maybe not as publicly as sometimes we should be, but we know that we have work still to do, and we take that seriously. But we also want to be helpful to people who strive for freedom and democracy, who want to respect human rights and human dignity, who want to build a market economy, who want to have a responsive government. So I think people ask for our help. We offer our help. We don't want to be interfering in the internal affairs of countries, but we do have a lot of experience about what works and what sustains democracy and what undermines it. So, you know, we will continue to offer whatever support we can to what you're doing
so
here.
It's totally a friendly advice, not any pressure. Or
Well, we know that all we can do is offer advice. It's ultimately up to any country whether to take it or not. But I want to stress something I said in my press conference. You know, the United States is investing significant sums of money in Bangladesh. And one of the reporters said, well, why are you doing that? You know, we're investing in helping you improve agricultural production through our Feed the Future program. We're investing in helping you build health systems through our Global Health Initiative. We're investing in technology and other approaches to mitigating climate change. We're working with various groups within Bangladesh on economic projects and other things. So why do we do that? Well, you know, we do believe that spreading democracy is good for the world. We believe that. Now, sometimes the decisions democracies make are not ones that you or I would make, but we think over the long run, having people empowered, given their rights, is the best form of government that has been invented. It certainly beats all the others. And so we think a strong democracy here that is able to realize the aspirations of your people is not only good for you, but it's good for the kind of world we would like to see. And that's our hope.
Sure.
Thank you. Can you take questions from the floor?
Sure, I will. I have two of my friends, Sabir and Jonathan. If you raise your hands, then we will take your questions.
We have so many hands up in the air, and it's hard to pick one. So many eager young faces. I would go with you, please. Please tell your name.
Hello, welcome to Bangladesh. My name is Nashin Khan, and I'm a recent graduate of Mount Holyoke College, and I'm working at a development organization called Khan Foundation. So we know that Bangladesh is one of the lowest contributors to carbon emissions, but it's the worst affected by climate change. So I would like to know, Madam Secretary, what initiatives or what commitment is the U.S. planning to make at the upcoming Rio Plus 20 conference that would help Bangladesh or other developing nations to tackle this challenge, either financially or in other means? Thank you.
Thank you. And congratulations on your graduation. I also graduated from a women's college in the United States called Wellesley. And so Mount Holyoke and Wellesley are what we call seven sisters. We're two of the sisters. So you're right. Climate change is one of the biggest threats to low-lying countries like yours, to island nations across the oceans. So we are particularly focused on seeing what we can do to help. And here are a couple of things. I also announced yesterday a grant to work between our research institutions and yours, $17 million over the next few years, to think of ways that we can help mitigate the effects of climate change here in Bangladesh. How we use technology, what kind of agricultural practices, what kinds of other responses to rising waters or the effects of increasing and intensity of storms and all of the issues that we are studying together. We are looking to figure out ways to actually put into practice the fund that has been agreed to with the large economies making contributions to try to help countries that are at risk. But among the challenges we face is to make sure we all know what works best, because as we try to reduce emissions, we still have to deal with the dangers that you are facing at the same time. So that's why this grant to work with you is so important. The other thing I have just started, and Bangladesh was a charter original member, is something called the Climate and Clean Air Coalition to prevent short-lived pollution like methane or black carbon or soot. And we are working with a small but growing group of countries Bangladesh, Sweden, Canada, Mexico, the United States, and others, to take action on these pollutants while we still work on carbon dioxide, because they're about 30 to 40% of the problem with greenhouse gas emissions. And there are ways of attacking those right now. For example, Bangladesh has joined something that we are sponsoring called the Global Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves, because the way that women in the developing world cook the food for their families kills 2 million women and children a year because of respiratory distress and diseases, and pollutes the atmosphere. So we are working to try to develop clean cook stoves that will then be made available through organizations like Grameen Bank or BRAC, so that we can help cut the pollution and improve the health. So there are numerous ways we are working directly with your country, and then more generally in preparation for Rio Plus 20, looking for how we're going to build on the commitments of Copenhagen, Cancun, and Durban, where for the first time, developed and developing countries together said, we all have to work to limit climate change. So we're working at it. It's a very difficult, long-term challenge. In the United States, we're increasing gas mileage for cars. We're cleaning up coal-fired power plants. We're working on a number of areas, even though we don't have an overarching, comprehensive legal framework. That was not possible with our Congress, but President Obama is continuing to make progress despite that.
We learned that you became the champion for using social media. So how do you manage? You have a pace.
I have to say that I think social media is used much, much more by young people than people my age. I'm well aware of that. But we in the State Department have tried to empower our diplomats to use social media, particularly to reach out to young people around the world. And in fact, I was over at the embassy thanking our employees who work at our embassy in Dhaka, and thanked them because the Facebook page for the embassy in Dhaka is the third most used in the world for all of our State Department sites.
Madam Secretary, you have a bunch of questions through social media, through Facebook and our ATN News email. So I would like to, Karavi, you wanted to ask something on behalf of ATN News.
Thank you, Muneeba. This question came from a public poll conducted by ATN News. The question is from Piarul Alam from Rangamati. What would you say about the common perception held by many young people that the U.S. is anti-Muslim?
Oh, that hurts me. That hurts me so much, honestly. I mean, it's a painful perception to hear about, and I deeply regret that anyone believes that or propagates it. So, let me say first that certainly I think the way the United States demonstrates respect for religions of all kinds, and particularly gives people from every religious faith the opportunity to participate in our society, is an important statement of our beliefs and our values. And is there discrimination or prejudice in the United States like in every society and country in the world? Unfortunately, yes. I mean, human nature has not changed dramatically. There is discrimination against people of different religions, of different races, of different ethnic groups all over the world. We see the results of that. But I don't think that it is at all fair to hold up the United States separate and apart from the challenges that we all are confronting to make sure that we respect the rights of every human being. And, you know, I believe that the United States, through our laws and through our constant political dialogue, has gone probably farther than anywhere else in the world in trying to guarantee legal protections for people. I would like to see more countries do more to protect the rights of minorities because I think that's an important part of democracy and of, you know, recognizing that, you know, no matter what our religion or whatever our background might be, we share this planet with people from many different vantage points, and we should be respectful. So I think that, you know, part of it is the fact that we have been engaged in self-defense and in protecting ourselves for more than 10 years. And we have gone after the terrorists who, personally, I do not believe is in any way reflective of Islam. I think that people who use religion, who pervert religion for their own power or their own personal needs or their own desires are doing a great disservice to religion. And you find people who, over history, have used every religion for that purpose. And it's unfortunate that terrorists today, at this point in history, are too often using a religion that is, you know, one of the great reflections of man's faith and one of the three monotheistic religions that I come out of as a Christian. So we know that there are those who, for their own reasons, try to politicize what the United States has done in a way that I think is unfortunate and unfair. And I certainly think President Obama has sent a very clear message of respect and appreciation of all religions, and in particular of Islam. So it is something we're aware of and something we will continue to speak out against, but I think looking at how the United States practices religious tolerance is something that speaks louder than any person's political statement would.
All right, thank you.
Well,
Can I please jump in?
Yeah.
I'm sure that we have many eager audience. In fact, I have a question, but I'll leave it to the audience. So let's see. We have this young fellow here. So, sir, what's your name?
I'm Hasibul Hassan from University of Dhaka. I have graduated in microbiology, and now I am involved in research project in University of Dhaka, and I am also teaching GRE at the American Alumni Association. In fact, I am concerned about the common people because the students have the opportunity to go to USA, but you provided earlier a DV lottery that was open for common people, and with this lottery program, our people, almost 5,000 people every year went to USA, they contributed to your country, and they also contributed to your country because they sent as remittance, but this opportunity is now closed for Bangladesh, so it is a little bit disappointing for us. So do you have any plan for resuming the DB program for our people or any other alternative exchange program so that the common people can go to US and contribute to USA and for Bangladesh?
Sir, thank you for your question.
Let me ask one of our people here at the embassy, because maybe let the ambassador directly respond to that.